what happened? I'm not about the hysteria versus coma in terms of teaching. So you can maybe getting an idea about why I chose the 5 that I did from the 12 possibilities in the ATM book. I went for maximum variation, and not that I am a qualitative researcher. Who's a qualitative researcher in the room? Anybody? Maximum variation is just it's just purposive sampling with maximum variation. I'm not a qualitative researcher, but I can quote the jargon. Anyway, so it was purposive sampling with maximum variation. And that lesson today, what's the challenge? I mean, there's a really obvious challenge in that lesson. Yes? 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 From a student point of view, but from a teacher point of view, teachers and stoochers, what's so challenging about that one? Yeah. Well, in the imagination stuff, you can't see, theoretically, you can't see anything. Did you? Oh, cool. What did you see? Well, then they did it wrong, didn't they? Thank you, microphone police.
I saw some movement when I was saying imagination.
Yeah.
But that was all right because that's feedback. And I was just like,
yeah,
leaving your arms on the floor. Yeah. Imagine.
Yeah.
Well, I've always thought you could move the imaginary ball by actually moving.
Yep.
Or do it or move the imaginary ball in your imagination.
Correct. That's the lesson is, as he writes it, is exactly that. You do it first in the imagination with no movement, and then you do it with movement. So I think what you're saying is when they were imagining it in their mind, like just imagining it, they were getting a bit of overflow into movement. Yeah. 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 And this fits in with what we currently understand about motor imagery. So when I first started teaching about motor imagery from a brain organisation point of view, the literature was very clear that when they were imaging the brain and the activity in the brain, when you imagine a movement, it's the same pathways in the brain for producing the real movement up until the final pressing of the button in the motor cortex, which is here. So for my right arm, it would be here for the arm. But then nothing on the tract between the cortex and the spine and the arm, therefore, would be silent. And that's what we used to teach. There was everything up until that point and then not. And then they got more sophisticated imaging techniques. And they started to realize that there was a dribble, as it were, in some people, a dribble of activation along the corticospinal path into the muscles. So what you saw is now that we've got more sensitive imaging and testing stuff, is that even in the imagination, there can be activation all the way through to the muscle. It doesn't stop at the beginning of the corticospinal tract. So it's possible that people can't can't separate purely imaginary from movement. Does that make sense? So therefore, you're both right. You're both right. That some people, it's in their imagination, and you could put EMG or whatever you like on them, image every part of their brain, and it would be imagination is imagination. There's nothing enacted. Other people, it's not so clear cut. There's a trickle into the effector organs, the muscles. Yep, so that's possible. Will, always an element of will. Yeah. Maybe, yeah. Yeah, maybe. So teaching something where you don't see, let's just go back to the supposition that for most people you won't see anything. For most people you won't see anything in the imagination because it's so small, even if the people feel it. What strategies did you do to pace yourself, therefore? What did you do? Oh, well, yeah. Tell me about it. I've never had that before. Like now. Right. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yep. Ah. Yeah. Aha. This is, that's her. Yeah. Some students you have to isolate them from the rest of the pack. Now Beck actually said a really interesting thing, which is so beautifully Feldenkrais. I want to hug you, because she said I went with their pattern. So, you know, like earlier in the week I said that, you know, if the room is really upregulated, you might organise yourself to bring them back down. But what she did was so elegant. She upregulated herself to meet them, so they didn't feel like they were being corrected. And then I suspect what you then did was you quietly quietened yourself down a little bit, and then because you'd met them. I'm fuzzing. And that is such a beautiful example of what we do in Feldenkrais. Is instead of correcting somebody and saying, will you please shut up and be quiet, or whatever it might be, like I just did with you guys, is you pace yourself with them. You go with them and then think, oh yeah, the teacher's with us. And then you kind of lock in together, and then you quietly quieten down, and then they will too. And it's beautiful. It's so sneaky. It's so good. Thank you. That's great. Now, of course, the problem is when you've got half the class that are really down-regulated and the other half that are up-regulated, I can't do that. Otherwise, you'd think I'd really lost the plot. So therefore, you just give up and walk away. Yeah, so what other strategies did other people do? How did you overcome this dilemma about finding a pace when you actually have no idea what your students are doing? Who else was teaching? Yeah, Helen. Well done, Helen. Look for the microphone first as a preparatory action. That was beautiful. Well trained.
I had one student who appeared to be just imagining.
Yep.
And one doing.
Uh-huh.
My attention was grabbed mostly by the one who was doing.
Yep, sure.
But I wasn't necessarily I wasn't necessarily up to designing. When I thought she'd done it enough times, I just went on to the next thing.
That's so good. So you had a sense of when she had had enough time. Yep. You're paying attention to something.
What had happened was she was ignoring me and going faster because I was going too slow and giving too much detail.
Okay. Is that true? Is that your projection?
No, she told me.
Oh, okay. Right. Okay. Yeah. So, you know, teaching these movements, when the movements are either so tiny that you can't see them, or they're really slow, or they're in the imagination, you have to be prepared to not get the pace right many times until you get a feel for it. Because all you've got to go on at the moment is your own pace, what you like. It's only when you've, kind of semi-experienced 500-600 other people's pace, not 100, but you know what I mean, that you start to calibrate what your pace is relative to somebody else's from an imaginary point of view. So, you can give yourself a tough time if you like about maybe not quite getting the pace right today, just remember this is the first time you've done it, and you're basing it on the experience of one, i.e. yourself. Okay, so therefore, teaching it again and again and getting an experience. Now, the person who found your pace too slow, they themselves might be up in the fast spectrum. You don't know that. So it's only when you've got another 4 or 5 people's experience in your experience that you can start to calibrate where the average is. Anybody else have another, other teachers? How did you pace what did you use to pace yourself? Your instructions. How did you know when to give a new instruction? How did you know when to tell them to pause? How did you know what rate to conduct the lesson at as a teacher?
The reflective scan of yourself, extending to the group.
Yep.
And into the room, and breathe back to the breathing. That actually, I found that a good setup, a very helpful setup for being able to pause and not to rush into and think about the delivery and the whole delivery.
Okay, so another teacher, there must have been more teachers than Helen and Beck. Who else taught? Yeah.
I think the pacing was by watching the movement, and when there seemed to be some fluidity to it, some comfort to it, then move it along to the next part.
So that's when you could see a movement. And what about when Gloria was doing it in her imagination? So you can just say we just did it, but I'm interested because you made a decision based on something.
Well, kind of lucky there because there was some little twitches in Gloria that gave us some indication.
Yep. Okay, so you saw that leaking kind of activity. Yep. Who taught? Oh yeah, go.
Well, we sort of did it together. I felt that the lesson you were giving us to be aware of where we were and centered and breathing gave us a grounding. With that combined with our recall of your meter and our own personal meter, because we were actually concentrating on grounding and breathing, it helped us deliver a regular meter in itself.
Meter's a good word, actually. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Oh, yep, Anna. Yep. You were right on.
I think with the imaginary one, because we're time limited, so I just sped everything up. Like, as in we don't have much, it's a mini ATM. So maybe after 4 or 5 moves-ish or not moves, but imagining.
So or
guidings. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how many imaginings they did, but I just went, that seems like enough. It was completely subjective. The moving one was more when someone stopped or looked like they were getting tired, or it was more of an effort than an ease. So then I just, because it was 3, you just went, oh, well, can probably all do with the rest then. But I did give options of, if you feel like you need to rest, just rest. Or you can, but it's quite a bit subjective.
It's all subjective. Life is subjective. So how did you two pace the imaginary stuff?
I've been told to speak.
You passed it on. Yeah.
We had 2 very different students.
Yeah.
One who was a little bit of a disbeliever in the lesson in terms of...
Point them out to me and I shall have words.
No, I'm not naming anyone. Yeah. But, if you don't believe the ball's going to roll up your leg then it's very hard to like imagine, like if you're starting from a position where that's not going to work for me.
Yeah.
And that was quite obvious in the muscle tonus.
Yeah.
To the point I decided I'd try and wake the person up. And they lifted their head and told me they were not asleep. And I did use their name at that point.
Yeah.
But I mean, very similar to Mark, the person who was moving, it was almost like you were able to see where the movement had a certain quality to it that you knew that was enough.
Yep.
And also surprisingly, the disbeliever actually had very clear muscle initiation in some of the imagination. So we could tell something was actually going on, even if she was not believing anything was happening.
Yeah. It's always the case with these people. Yeah.
It was imaginary. Several times that word was used.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if the question was, is there,
Yeah, you're right.
if there's a difference between the imagined and reality for the brain,
Yeah.
so you have to then find something that is possible to imagine as one and the same thing, an imagine or the reality.
Yeah.
And if you can't roll a cannonball or
Yeah.
a large rock, then in your imagination, then it's not going to listen.
So there's a beautiful thing emerging here, which is the force of a metaphor for good and for evil. Right? That for some people it really works. It's really clear. That ball rolling around focuses their attention, and it gives them a sort of an imaginary focus, a focus for their imagination. For other people, it just drives them crackers because they know damn well that a ball can't roll uphill. Right? And so I kid you not, every time you use a metaphor, you can guarantee that there will be at least one or two non-believers in the room where the metaphor turns them off, or they will have the but reaction to it, and you will have lost them. That's the price you pay for the metaphor. Sorry to be fuzzing. Might be running out of battery. Well, I am. It's 4:24. 23 by that other clock. Yes, you may.
So on that point, we had a discussion in our group about why not keep using the image of someone touching you.
Yep.
And we kind of came to the conclusion that was because, like, if somebody else is touching you, that's not actually your own muscle activation. So I don't know if you've got anything to comment on that.
And you can't roll it, but yeah.
Well, to like activate that line.
Yeah.
I guess if his whole point is about bringing the subconscious into the conscious.
Yep.
And then I just wanted to praise my other student who was very actually turned the uphill to a downhill. So very good.
Oh. This is why we really should give out stars, isn't it? No, that's right. Yeah, that's right. It should be star charts. These are really important points. You know, and it's so I'm not suggesting that you abandon metaphors, but just to understand that they do have this kind of reaction with people. You know, that some people will buy into them straight away and they'll be really clarifying. And there'll be a percentage who don't. And the touching one, I mean, I have had students, you know, when I've taught it using the finger touching, they literally go, ugh, which is why I said it. And in the book, of course, he does. He abandons it. I mean, he doesn't abandon it because he wrote, he could have gone and erased it. But, you know, he only does it once or twice up there, and then he swaps to the ball so that he can roll it to do the lifting. I mean, there's a few other little imaginary things like that. Sorry, just realised I looked down at the wrong time. Where you imagine that your body is sliced down the middle. Now, some people love that. And when I was an assistant trainer, and the trainer said, "Well, you teach that, and no jokes, no nothing." Like, it was one of those times where they said, "You stick to the lesson, and no tangents, no anything." So that was fine. But I was very aware that there were people there who would just literally, their faces would go, "Ugh," half the time. But other people came and said that was so clear. Like, having the line like that is so clear. I can't remember which lesson that is. Basically, you slice the body down the middle and you put a mirror down there. That one, yeah. And so you really create this really sharp midline, and you do these movements. Really, that's right, polishing the mirror here versus here, and blah, blah, blah. Zoran's just feeding me lines from the back stools. So, that's sort of an imagery thing that's a bit confronting. I remember somebody teaching a lesson once where, that you're concentrating on the arch of the back, a bit like what you're doing in the Carter. And they said, make an arch in your back large enough for a mouse to run under. And again, about 20% of the room just freaked out. But the last thing they would do would be make an arch, because if there's any possibility of a mouse running, they would freak out. Whereas other people, that was really clear. Like, they knew how much that actually gave them a calibration about how much to arch their back. So you're busy saying, well, what's your answer, Susan? My answer is, you have a crack, see what happens with different metaphor, and sometimes you'll really blow it. I remember teaching something, I think I told you this actually, I can't remember what the lesson was now, where I was using all these geometry metaphors. I did tell you that with the isosceles triangle. Well, I turned off more than half of the class because they were all people who'd struggled with that. So by using angles and geometry, I don't know why I just did it. More than half the class didn't like the lesson. I remember getting totally lost teaching the clock and going through, 5 or 6 different kinds of clock, Big Ben, Salvador Dali clock. I just went mental with the clock business, with different kinds of clocks. And it was like, I nearly went for 2 hours, and I was co-teaching a gate workshop with a colleague, and she was beside herself because I just got lost in this metaphor trip. So, be prepared to get it wrong, so to speak. Yeah, especially with the disbelievers. Oh, now, can I just say one other thing about imagination? There will be also a small percentage of people in the room who don't like doing things in imagination. Me, really don't like it. And in my training, when I didn't have a theory to pin it on, this is bullshit, and I would just take the opportunity to sleep. Anytime they said do this in the imagination, I'd go, fabulous. So just be aware of that. Some people they're disbelievers about that as a method. Yeah. Yeah. She's just bad all over. Don't worry, I've had my eye on her for the whole week. Anyway, Gloria. Try again.
Is it working? Oh, it is working. Okay, it's the angle. I was just going to say the biggest learning for me in that, as the student lying down, was pretending to be the teacher giving it and listening to you. Because what I realised in that was that was a strategy that I could have used when I was doing my presentation, and everyone in the room was doing their own thing. And I got totally bamboozled and panicky.
Yeah.
Because I did not know where to look. And so bringing it back to my body would have been the perfect strategy instead of bringing it back to the page, which is what I actually did.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that was brilliant. Thank you.
Good. So, I didn't make up that. It's the preparation for teaching ATM, but there are some little tips in there that you may or may not want to try in moments of panic when you're teaching. And this ability to shift your attention from yourself to the student. and seeing that the rolling of attention from one sensory group to another, from you to the student, from you to the external, that can happen more or less smoothly, just like the ball. So this ability to shift attention, to focus, to broaden, to focus somewhere else, to broaden, to shift from one sense to another, all of that movement, that organization of the movement of attention is exactly the same as organizing the movement of your body. In many cases, the current evidence is that it's the same parts of the brain organize that movement, the movement of attention. Interestingly, so the cerebellum, for example, which is very organized, they're very involved in organizing the coordination of movement, now they're realizing is involved in coordinating the movement of thought, i.e. attention. So, and understanding the development of the brain is that a lot of those higher order cognitive functions are using the same brain substrates as the brain uses for movement, because the brain just got, it didn't develop yes, it did develop kind of whole new areas in a way, but no, they're based on the basic foundation of the basic brain, as it were. So it's not like we've got a thinking center and a movement center anymore. We don't view the brain so much like that, as the way that those same substrates subserve other functions. So you can think about the movement of thoughts like you can think about the movement of body, in a way, up to a point. So practicing the smoothness and the shifting of your attention is the same in many ways as practicing the shifting of the movement of your body during breathing, etc. That's quite comforting, isn't it? To know that you're exercising the brain in many ways. Yeah.
Is that working?
Yes.
I can say another comforting thing for just to stick up for the non-believers among us.
Yeah.
Well, I remember when, and it wasn't in this, it wasn't today, but numerous times for this training when we've been asked to imagine things.
Yep.
And I can remember my self-talk is, oh, what a lot of rubbish, I can't be bothered. But I kind of went through the process in a really grudging way.
Yep.
And this is a waste of time. And I was saying all of this. And then I did the imprint on the floor and I thought, oh my God, it worked. I could feel the muscle tonus changing.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my God, I have got an imagination. It is working.
Yeah.
Because I hate.
Yeah.
I usually hate imagining things.
Yeah.
So somehow, some way.
Yeah.
Sometimes it works.
Yeah.
So don't pick on unbelievers.
Well, and imagining is a skill that you get more or less good at. And that, when we're using mental imagery training in people with stroke, for example, if we're using it in research, we want to know how good somebody is at imagining, because some people are really bad at it. Not just because I don't believe in it, but just they're not skilled at it. So there's a scale of how good people are at imagery. Just putting it out there. Yeah. I still don't like doing it. Don't get me wrong. It's not that I'm a non-believer. I just don't like it myself personally, but I do it because I know it works.
It's not really about our class.
Okay.
And about believers. I have a friend, and at some point she was in a coma, and when she was out of coma, she couldn't move.
Wouldn't or couldn't?
Couldn't at all. What she could do, she could just turn her head. And because she was a professional in this area, she started to imagine.
Yeah.
Firstly, she imagined how her fingers moved, then hands and arms, legs. Anyway, in a year, she was able to move, and now she's functional. That is she knew she should start from the imagination.
Yeah. There's some good evidence for it, particularly in stroke. So anyway. Thank you. All right. So do we need to wrap up the week? I think you wrapped it up at about lunchtime, actually, but that's okay. Next week, Zoran and Jenny and Ruth will continue to take you on the journey of breathing. And Zoran will tie up some loose ends from this week. Continue with this overall theme you know, around the skills and knowledge that build up your sense of competency around teaching an ATM. So starting to imagine yourself more and more as teachers of ATM, and then putting that into practice. So that's where you're heading. I think that, you know, then you've got the ATM where you'll get, you know, practice getting feedback. You've been practicing giving and receiving feedback from each other. So over the weekend, you can contemplate what was useful feedback or not, and what was a useful way to give feedback, what's a useful way to receive feedback, for more discussions around that. Because remember, feedback is, you know, the best way to improve. Just a question of how easy it is to digest, and the quality of the feedback makes a difference. So that's something to think about. Otherwise, have a lovely weekend. It's been a fun week, even though you are very naughty. I quite enjoyed the naughtiness this afternoon. And I'll look forward to the in-between, what do we call this, the work, the non-face-to-face work? Because I don't want to call it homework because it sounds sort of, the online activities. So we had a lovely lunch meeting to map out some really juicy online activities for you for the next 3 months. And then you come back in May with Julie Peck, and then there'll be another 2 months, April. And then, oh yeah. So it's 2 months and then, oh, okay. So we have to be adaptable. Bugger. That's all. Any questions for me in particular? You've got my email address somewhere. I've got some homework to do in terms of writing up some of this stuff, because some of the stuff that we've put on the whiteboard, I'll be reformatting for you to use in the first online activity. Otherwise, enjoy next week, and feel free to get so nervous and anxious. And then realise that's a bit of a waste of time and don't bother, because it's just us. Just us. Just. All right. Go forth. Have a nice... Oh, sorry, Jen. Oh, yeah.